Hello! We are back. I think my hair's a little messed up, but I'm going to jump into StarQuest. And my goal for this session is to build the turn-based system for the ship creation. So we did the turn-based setup for constructing buildings. So now I got to do that for the ships. And then after that we'll do sending ships based on turns. So feels like this is taking a bit longer than usual. Normally this is up and ready. It says ready, but IntelliSense hasn't fully parsed. Like, why do I spend so much money building these machines if they're going to be slow as crap? That is annoying. Just spent like $2 grand upgrading this thing. It's got a Ryzen 9 in there. It's got a 3070. I think it's a 3070 Ti. Updated Mobo. I didn't do the 4070 because I think the 3070 is still better performance-wise. So it's like, why spend the extra money for lower performance? Like, whatever. But see, that took like 20 seconds. No, it was longer than that. And I'm already booted up because I did a reboot before this. I did an involuntary reboot because Windows decided to update through over the night. And yeah. All right, let me make sure I get this. And
introducing the first.
Nobody cares. Turn the volume off of YouTube here. Should I stream on Twitch? You think anybody on Twitch would give a hoot? I mean, I have a Twitch account. I just never use it. I usually stream directly to this. I guess I could multi-stream. I think there's an option to stream to YouTube and Twitch at the same time. Maybe I'll look into that, just to broaden the audience. But it's a different audience, right? The people who are watching Twitch are usually like kids, right? I don't know. Hi, Jerbear. I appreciate that you're here, but don't you got all that hair, all that fur? Yeah. Make sure we link this together. This isn't refreshing automatically. There we go. Alright. So last time on Dragon Ball Z, yeah, we got this going. Let's jump into the H file here, and that's for the upgrades. This is going to be for creating the ship, and this is sending the ship. So, so I will block this one off here. Okay, so we're going to do a use struct. If you're in Unreal, you've got to do, if you want your structs to be viewable in Blueprint specifically, you got to do a use struct. Although I think Unreal gets mad if you don't use it. And then all their structs have an F in front of them. It's their naming convention. So this is F action create ship. And then we need to have a generated struct body. That's another Unreal macro. So things that we need to have in here. Kind of the same deal. We need to know who's creating it, like who the owner of the ship is, what planet it's being created from, and how long it's going to take to build the ship. So all those things. So really, I can come down here and steal this. So I've got all that. So to avoid rewriting, I'm going to take this up. Although, as I tell my kids, don't be a copy paster. But for the sake of speed, I am going to copy paste this. The reason you want to avoid copy pasting is if there's an error or something you don't need. Your mind is going to ignore a lot of that stuff. And you're going to have to pay more attention and it's a lot harder to pay attention to something that's already there than it is to pay attention to it as you're building it. It's just the way the mind works. Okay, but we are going to need a player, and we will need the planets, and we need a build time. But this will not be building types, this will be ship types. So I'm going to get ship types here. This will be ship type. And then we will do ship. So in this case, I don't have, since this is the same and that's the same, I don't have to do anything. This is really the only thing I had to change here, and we have that. And then this is create building, so I'm going to have this be create ship. Just so it has its own category and I can block it off. Okay, what else do I need to know about creating the ship? Should I do a quantity? Because you can build, more than one ship at a time, but should I have each one go individually into the stack, into the list, or should I have a bunch of them go in? And then if I have a bunch of them go in, how do I manage that? So I think if I do it based on the remaining amount of build time, I can get away with it. So like, if I hit the button, it'll add it to the thing. If I hit the button again, it'll go to add it, but it'll add it to, it'll check, I can have it check for the amount of remaining build time, and then I can just stack it. That way I don't have to have a whole crap ton of them. So I think that'll be good. So I'm going to grab this, we'll have build time, and we'll also have quantity. I think that's fine. Alright, so we have that. Now I need to add that to here. So for the actual action queue, we have create buildings, but I'm also going to do create ships here. So I'm going to borrow that. This again will be a T array, action queue, and this is create ship. I think that'll be good there. I'm going to come on down. Action queue is already being generated down here, so we're good there. What else do we need? So we have add action to action queue, but I need to make an override for this, which I think is going to be annoying because I think Unreal is going to be mad if I use the same naming style. But I will do it anyway. So this will be an override for this. To make it an override, we have to change some things in the signature. So player we need, planet we need, this needs to be eShip types, and this needs to be ship type. I'm not passing in quantity, and yeah, I'm not passing in quantity or build time. I think I can get away with that. And we'll just have it check itself internally. Okay. So I'm not going to do any work on this yet. I'm going to save and then compile and see if Unreal throws a tissy that these have the same names in the local space. And the answer is yes, it threw up in tissy because it had the same name in local space. Why? Why does local space fucking matter? That is dumb. Like, come on, guys. The amount of dumb that is makes me want to throw some hands. Really, like, it's such a small thing. Okay, I'll go. Maybe it's not. I'll go take a look. Add action queue conflict with function scripts. Add action to action queue. Maybe it just won't let me do an overload. Well, that would be really annoying. If that's the case, if I can't do an overload, what I could do is modify the main name. So instead of, this would be, add building to action queue and add ship to action queue. I might do it that way. Let me see. One second. U functions and overloads. Can I do an overload? Let's see what... there's function overloading. I don't see anything specific to Unreal. let's go here. That's annoying. Banner gets in my way. Yeah, their suggestion is just rename the function. I guess I can. I wonder if their keyboard is chattering. One of those symptoms of a mechanical keyboard, which is why I am in favor of membrane keyboards. I'm using a mechanical membrane, so it's a blend. Love it. I don't have key chatter. Yeah, so you can see up here, the Google AI says it's possible. Obviously it isn't, so they say it's not, and my build error says it's not, so. Okay, so what I will do is I will break my code because I want to be consistent. So I will say add building to action queue, and then I'll do add ship to action queue. How do I want to rename these? I'm thinking of a naming conflict in my own way. What if I did something that I think is kind of gross? Do an underscore. Like, I don't like that naming convention, but it does make it clear. So building and then ship and then send ship and then upgrades. I mean, this is much more clear to read. It is messy. I don't like it. Nobody else is going to look at my code, right? So it doesn't matter. But hey, how's it going? How are you enjoying your summer? Like, this is better for readability, but I really hate using underscore names, but when I do this, I'm going to break my code, though. Like, it bugs me so much to underscore my function names. Like, I know Unreal does, you know, that Unreal has a whole bunch of, you know, underscored function names. You know, I get it. I don't like it. It makes me cringe. But it's okay. I'll try to make do. I can always change the name of it later if I don't like it. By the way, when you change the name of a function, you have to change the name of every call of that function. So it creates a headache for that, and you also have to go fix all the blueprints that break. So when you do it, you got to do it with that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to be receiving, I need action create ship. And this will be the ship that I'm going to create. And then for the ship, I need to get the player, and that will be the player in queue. And I think I'm going to get ahead of myself because I haven't even tested to see if this is going to run. You son of a biscuit. You be that kind of a jerk face. You're starving for breakfast? I don't eat breakfast. Breakfast makes me tired. She wants to eat breakfast all the time. Like, breakfast is her favorite meal of the day. And I wake up, I eat breakfast, and then I have to take a nap right after. I get nothing done. But you're a breakfast person, huh? What do you eat? Ship. This is going to be ship type. Yes. I'm going to try building off of here and see what errors I get. I swear to Bob. Hey, build success. That's good. Welcome to the stream if you're just joining. I gotta break some blueprints here. Alright, that's up. Always have meat as a component of the breakfast. I mean, you gotta. You don't count eggs as meat, though. I mean, it's a baby bird. Eggs are definitely meat. You can see how, because I changed the name of the function. These are all broken. That's annoying. Look at all them wires I gotta fix. It's alright. I'm not gonna worry about this just yet, because I might change the name of the function again, and if or when I do, I'll have to come back and change it again. So as long as it builds, I'm happy. I'm gonna cancel and I'll continue with the function. Okay. We're adding the action to the queue. Whenever I call this, I could do this on the blueprint side, but I'd rather not handle I don't mind passing in values on the blueprint side, but I don't like handling the action of a function on the blueprint side if I already have the function, you know what I mean? It seems redundant. So I guess I could do a check here for that. Because if I'm going to increase the quantity of these, I need to check if it's already in the queue and then add it. Let's see, how do I want to do that? Because at some point I have to add the action to the queue, so do the action queue, create ship. Oops, that's create building. Create ship. Dot add. And then I'll just add in the ship here. This part's the easy part, but I have to take care of some values first. So for the quantity of ships and the build time, I was passing in the build time. But I could probably just handle that here. So let's do ship.planet. We want to get the ship list. And what kind of lists do I have? So ship. I've got ship count and ship list and subship list. Let's do the ship list. And then from there, I need to get the ship that I'm creating. So that's going to be ship type -1. So from there, I get the ship type -1. I need to get from that the build time. So ship dot build time, we'll set that equal to. We've got that. So what do you do for your starch? Do you do potatoes? Do you do grits? Do you do like oatmeal? Do you do pancakes? Pancake count as a starch? I mean, it counts as a carb. And then we'll do, for the quantity, we'll do this. We'll do if add action dot create ship dot num is let me see if they have an is empty already in there. Sometimes they have an empty check. So if I call that, then it would be empty. I feel like there's a direct check for empty. If I call the function here, I think it'll just empty it in the process. So, you know, I'll do num and I'll just check if it's equals 0. So if we have nothing in it, there might be a better way to check that. So if it's empty, then we will do ship quantity is equal to 1. And I'll just do ++. No, I'll just set it to 1. So we'll set it to 1. Why are you angry? Let me check. Planet CPP. I was just checking to see if I used, this is I can't remember if I was able to use .empty as a check. I've used it to empty the array, but I don't think I've ever used it as a check. Okay, well, I'll go back to game mode. Alright, so if there's nothing already in the array, then I'll just say whatever. Else, if it's not empty, then I can do a for int 0 and I is less than action q dot create ship dot num and then I plus plus. So we'll go through the loop and we'll check to see if the ship that's been added is the same type and if the build time is in the same range. So we'll check both of those. So we'll do if action q dot create ship Interesting. Did I not change those? Wait a second. Why is that giving me a building type? Hold on a second. Did I not change that? Create ship should have ship type. Build type quantity. Yeah, why am I getting building type out of there? Action Q create ship. That's not right. Welcome, welcome. That's weird. Yeah, it's why am I getting these out of there? That's weird. I should be seeing the ships, not the... I don't know. I'm going to just write it in. It won't let me grab it. Let me go up to the top here. Make sure... that I instantiate it. Yeah, I'm only seeing the elements of the first struct. That's really weird. I don't think I have any errors in my struct. Blueprint type struct. Action create ship. Let me go down to here. Ah. Don't be a copy paster. This is why I say don't do that. Okay. There we go. So that would be ship type. And I want to see if the ship type is equal to the ship that I'm making. So ship dot. So we'll see if those things are the same. Okay. But I also need to see if the build time is also the same. So I'm going to grab that. And that should be build time. Although there's an error in my logic. I am grabbing the build time from here, which I should not be doing. Build time needs to be 0 here, because we're starting off at 0. Okay. Later on, when I check to see the update, I will update the build time that way, but yeah. Alright, so we're checking to see if we have the ship that is already in the queue is the same type as the ship that we're making, and that the build time that is remaining on the ship is the same as the build time going in. If those things are the same, then we can add the ship to the queue. So we will get that element, so action queue dot create ship. We'll get that element dot quantity, and we'll add 1. Okay. All right. And then I have to change where this is. So this will go into here. So if it's a unique object being created, we'll go through this process, set the quantity, pop it in there. Otherwise, we'll just look for any other instances in the queue and add it. Something's wrong though. There's an error that I'm not quite getting. I don't want to do this off of 0. Because if I add, let's say let's say I go through and I add a ship, and the first ship's an attacker, right? Well, the next time I run this cycle, it's not going to check. You know, I have to verify, so. So while I'm sitting here breaking my brain, how are you guys doing? What else are you guys up to today? AP, did you get your breakfast? Huh. I know that's wrong, but my brain's just not getting there. Had some chicken nuggets and then morning medicine with Gatorade. Well, it's the breakfast of champions, you know. Sorry, I know it's not very entertaining seeing me sit here thinking. Maybe I'll pet the cat. Sometimes petting the cat is good luck. Sometimes petting the cat is bad luck. If I wake her up, she'll want attention. Alright, so we got the planet in queue, building queue. Alright, so if there's nothing in the queue, we'll add one. And then we'll go down here for the other case. So the first case is we're going to check no, I'm overthinking it. I don't need to do that. I've already got that check in there. Alright, so if it's the same, we'll add, if it's the same thing and it has the same build time, we'll just update the quantity. The else on that case will be just to add the ship. It's kind of a repeat though. There's got to be a cleaner way. I can organize this better, I think. This totally goes against the never nesting situation, but I think that'll work. Domestic cats are generally 95% tiger. This one is a big kitty. Hi. I'm gonna get you. Oh, she's heavy though. She's a big, heavy cat. But now I did it. I woke her up and I have to pet her. It is required for me to pet her now. But she's very insistent and I petted you a little bit. Now it's time to go back to laying down. Alright, let me work through my logic here. I can't run the loop before anything's in the array, because then the array would be broken. Right, because if I try to run a loop on an array with nothing in it, it'll just say no. So I can't do that. So I just don't like doing this twice, you know. This here and this here. But it's whatever. Now I'm going to go ahead and try to call this in Blueprint, I think is the next step. Can I add the ship, and can I increase the quantity? And then what I might do up here, yeah, build time I didn't set, so build time should be 0. Although I did predefine it. It's up here. Yeah, I did predefine. So I don't technically have to set that here. This does bother me, but I'll think about it later. I need to go do another thing, and I'll come back to it. So let's try to run it. So AP, are you still tinkering around in Unreal? Have you touched it in a while? Alright, so I'm in here. Let's go into the blueprint. I'm going to fix this unholy mess here. Alright, so I'll break that. Action to build queue, and we're running this off of false. Okay, ship type is going in, and then we need to know the planet, and we need to know the player, and we're not determining quantity, so that should be fine. What I want to do here, instead of writing the code twice and doing it again down here, I think what I will do is branch off of these here. I'm not going to destroy this just yet. Instead, I think what I'll do is this. You buy free for the month content? Yeah. It does have some decent stuff. What I was going to do was create a variable that just gets switched on these, and then have one body of code that gets modified. But I've got this enum that I have to cater to. Because everything else is the same. I think there's an option to switch on enum though. So let's switch on enum. And the enum is going to be building switch on building types. I don't think I have to do that. If I just change the index of what I'm passing in, this will update automatically. So the question is, if I come in with I'm going to make a local variable here. This will be ship type local. eShip. So on this button, I can set it like this. So there's ship type. Let me do one for building type. Building type. Pop that off. I'll do this one. Don't need this. Let's do that. Don't need that. And then on this one, if it's a refinery, I'll just pop in the refinery. Oh, I never changed the type. Hold on. That's going to get angry. Building type. Okay. There we go. That did not get nearly as angry as I was expecting. So that'll be a refinery. Actually, no, this is a starport. So starport, and then this one's a refinery. Okay. So then let me see how I can make this work. I'm gonna copy this stuff. and make this real long. I don't think I need to keep this guy around, but I will move him over here in case I need him. I don't think I need this to happen. And then this can go at the end. In the middle here, pop that in. Okay, now both of these will run the same thing, so you will trigger this, you will trigger that. The only thing that gets changed is the item going in. Same trigger happens, and then here I will call the variable building types. So this is the only thing that gets changed. Here, the rest of the code's the same. So that'll fire and do all its things, and then after that, this needs to go and do that. So I need the player and let me take a look. Docked planet is the target. So player can feed into player. Docked planet can feed into docked planet. And then the building is going to be this. Okay, so now it's one body of code that should handle pretty much all that. The only thing that's different is the variable going in. So I should be safe on cleaning this thing. Let's see. Even though having a remote job is cool, you miss having an in-person job. Yeah, I can see that. Back when COVID was happening and all the teachers went on remote, it's kind of like the closest thing to a remote job, you know. Because I enjoyed being able to get up and kind of work on my own time, but the quality of the work that came out of the students was way low because there was no accountability. And then the school was just like, you know what, we'll just pretend that this year didn't happen and everybody gets an A. That's what the district ended up doing, so it didn't matter. And I think I can do the same thing for these. Instead of calling this, 3 times, I'll just make one. Let me test this one and see if it's working. If all goes well, this should do exactly the same as previously. So I'll make a couple players, a couple planets. Let's get the game mode. And I need the queue. So I got building queue. Now we have a ship queue. That wasn't there before because we just added it. But I can add a building to the building queue, and I can't add multiple. Cool. I can add the next building to the building queue. I cannot add multiple. Good. I can intern, and then as the new player, I get to add one. Can't add multiple. 2. Can't add multiple. I am not getting the already added to queue check though. Yeah, already added to queue, I don't get that. but I'll end the turn. One full turn has happened for that. And then both starports are still there, and we'll end turn, and both those work. So all that works. The one thing that's weird is I'm not getting the message for I'm going to save that. Not getting that message. Why would I not get that message? That's pretty cool. So you got career studies certificate in computer science. What is career studies? And how does that differentiate from like a standard computer science certificate? Okay, so we still validate everything. I don't do an is valid check on the game mode because the game can't run without the game mode, so it has to be there. But I guess I could do an is valid check there as just a safety. There's no reason why this one would fail, but just in case. Finder and starport, those come in, those go out. We check to see if it's there. Oh, you know, I could have the messages report out. Well, those messages are sent internally, so I probably wouldn't see it. That is sent when yeah, that message is sent from here. So what happens is this function has a safety check. So what I can do is pass over to here. And then I'll have this one also kind of run into that. So I should end up with the message on screen, but I shouldn't have to worry about it actually running the function, because the function will cancel out. So if I add this, building added to queue, and if I add it again, building is already in queue, and I shouldn't have to. If I add the next one, I can get the next one, and if I add it again, building's already in queue. And just for testing purposes, can't get extra. Right? So I should only have 4 buildings here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I end my turn, the first set of buildings got finished, second set of buildings is still building, end turn, everything's clear. So that worked. So yeah, so I was able to clean up some of that code there. Alright, so the community college offers career studies certificates and associate degrees that correspond to your major. Okay. What are the pros and cons of doing one versus the other? So, like, are they mutually exclusive? Could I do just a certificate and not finish a major, or or is the certificate part of the completion of the major? Okay. So that all works pretty well for that, and I don't need these anymore. And then I don't need this anymore. And then I do the same thing along that line, or along those lines, I guess, for here. Let's move these out of the way. And I'll expand this. Same sort of logic, I think, will apply. I'm going to grab all these. Let me break these. Gonna move these out of the way to here, and I'll take the one that matters, this one, and that. And on these, each one of those is going to get the eShip type. And then ship type, ship type. So for attacker, we have attacker. For a harvester, we have a harvester. For the supply ship, we have the supply. And I don't have a destroyer button. You can graduate from community college with a career studies certificate even before you get an associate's degree. Oh, that's pretty cool. Does that help with job placement early? So all those are going to go. I need pretty much to do the same thing here. So I'm going to want player and the docked planet. That needs to happen. Out here, I need to get the game mode. Let me borrow the game mode from here. I am going to need these safety checks. Maybe not. Okay. So I'm going to need add action to queue. I'm going to add the ship. So I need the player in the queue. I need the planet in the queue. And then I need the ship. So let's get this. We'll get the ship list. Yeah, and let's see. Off of here. So yeah, so I'll do my get. I'll get by reference. I'll split. And then we're going to be getting the ship type local. We'll do get to int minus 1. Okay, so ship type should go straight into ship type. And then same thing over here, ship type into ship type. Let me look what I did here. Yeah, I'll get it off of this. Just so the same source is being used in case something was different here. Alright. Count the number of resources. Everything else is being handled internally, so I don't think I need to do any of those. That's pretty cool. We do something similar in the high school setting. We have the kids get their certifications pretty early. I disagree with having freshmen get their certifications. It doesn't really make sense since a lot of certifications expire. So for a freshman to get certified, long before they can even get hired for the job, doesn't quite make sense. However, in a hiring situation, you can put that on your resume, and then the recruiter goes, "Oh, they have the certificate." So if the job says, "Hey, you got that certificate back in, such and such, and it's technically expired. Do you want to get it again?" That's usually a thing they ask you in the interview. So sometimes I don't care. They're like, "Oh, well, you had it once. It doesn't matter," and they move on. But I think the technical field is going to be more particular about that. So it's whatever. But it is neat to get them early. I just think freshman year's a little too early, but yeah. Okay, so anything else do I need? Don't think so. This can run to here. This can run to there. That one goes here. Bam, bam, bam. Check to see if everything's valid. We did not check to see if the game mode is valid, though. Not that I need to, it's just one of those safety checks. And in this case, I don't have to check if it's already in the queue because you can add multiple ships to the queue. Yeah, we have dual enrollment with our school, and SPC is the one that we do dual enrollment with. Gibbs does dual enrollment with PTC, Pinellas Technical College. We technically can do the same, but we just don't really do a whole lot with Pinellas Technical College. With the exception of our construction course, because we have electrical and manufacturing and that sort of thing. So their kids specifically will go over and do some work with PTC, but most of the time they go to SPC. St. Pete College versus Pinellas Technical College. Pinellas Technical College used to be called PTech, but they renamed it. So for the older folks who are watching, they go, "Oh, I went to P-Tech. My dad went to P-Tech." But now it's PTC. So if you call it P-Tech, the guy that oversees that goes, "Hey, we changed that." Okay. Okay, so I think that's good. I can probably go through the motions of adding the ship. However, there is something that I didn't do on the coding side. I didn't change when the ship gets actually built. So that has to happen. But for the moment, I think I can add, let me see if I can add them to the queue. This may break. Let's see if it breaks. So I need this and this to add the queue, and I'll do intern, and I'll add the queue. I'll intern twice. We'll get the game mode. Nothing else is in, so whatever player I'm on, we'll do player 1. If I add a ship, the ship is added to the queue. Okay, cool. So the current build time on that one is 0. Let me see if I can add another. So yes, I can add that ship, add that ship, add that ship, add that ship. Okay. You know what I didn't check in that that loop? I didn't check to make sure the thing in the build queue was of the correct player. So ice, or the correct planet. So I suspect when I go to player 2, that player 2 will be allowed to add a ship to player 1's queue. And player 2 can indeed add ships to player 1's queue. So I will have to make that a difference. That's going to be a thing. And then I ended the turn, and technically they're built. What actually happened is on end turn, the update queue wipes the all the stuff that's currently there. So I'm going to have to rewrite how that works too. But I digress. And there's a bunch of errors. Yeah. There are some things that has to be changed. Things that have to be changed. Okay. Step 1. Let's go to building a ship. So building a ship happens on where? Do I do that on ship or do I do it on planet? I think planet does building ships, but there's overlap for this. Tick, we have define ship and all that stuff. That stuff. Yeah, because the main ship list is on there. Trade route. And whatnot. So we'll go to the planet that spawns supply ship. Because the supply ship has different rules. So this one, spawn ship, is that. And that returns the ship, and this returns spawned. Interesting. For this one, I return a ship as a spawn ship. For spawning the supply ship, I don't do that. I actually call spawn ship, spawn it, get the ship, and then set the ship details. I might rewrite that. Okay. So spawn ship checks planet and player. We get the ship. Go through the motions. We spawn that. And then we spawn it. Okay. So here's the construct for ship. So we'll do, it checks to see if we have the planet. It'll say whether or not we have a starport. Whether or not we have resources. So if any of those fail, it exits the function. What else do we do here? We then check for resources. Yes. And then there's a final check on resources. Okay. Deduct resource cost, and then add ship to ship count. So this will be different. I think I'll change this one. But when does it call spawn ship? Spawn ship gets called when I send the ships. That's different. Okay, so construct ship, this is just adding it to there. So I'm going to comment this line out, and instead, what do I want to do here? People popping in and out all day. Oh. Ship doesn't get added to ship count until after. Hold up. Let me go in real quick. just need to see where. Because I'm calling construct ship from blueprint. So I need to change up exactly how that's going to work. Yeah, so I'm calling construct ship from here. And that's going to go through and add it to the player. So for construct building, that was fine because the building is not really tangible. Technically, the ship isn't tangible either. Let me stew on that. Let me fix the other problem first, which is I'm adding ships to the wrong player. I'll do that first. So I go back to game mode and then on add ship. So yeah, I'll need to check. So I'll just do an and. So we got to make sure that the ship that we are holding, we want to make sure the player is equal to the ship player. We'll also check the planet because you can build them on different planets. Let's see. Okay, so with my new remote job, I learned to use it's hard to read on the phone sometimes. Oof. I learned to use digital currencies like United States dollar coin. United States dollar coin is digital currency backed by United States dollar. Yeah, I trade with USDC. So pretty much all of my trades with any crypto, it doesn't matter what it is, if I'm doing Bitcoin or Ethereum or Doge or whatever they are, they're trading amongst themselves, but anytime it cashes out back to USDC. So if the active trade is going back and forth between like Doge going up or down, that's fine. But on whenever that money is moved, I don't leave it in whatever crypto it's in. It goes to USDC because USDC is relatively stable compared to the other coins. Okay, so then this, and then I'll do another and. We'll do and. It's a long string of ands. That's hard to read, you know, but so if it's the correct player and we want it to be the correct planet. Then we want to check to see if it's the correct ship type and if it's the correct build time. Then we can do that. Alright, let's test it. I don't know that I'm allowed to comment on that. Alright, so I'll build those, end turn, build those, end turn, end turn. Game mode, we'll check the queue. Okay, and let's build a ship. Yes, I was able to build a ship. Let me see if I can build a different ship. Yes, I was able to build a different ship. So that works. Let me see if I can build this ship. That goes into here. Yes. That's interesting. I have a harvester and another attacker. Let me build another attacker. So I got 3 on this one. So that is weird. Okay. I'll end turn a couple times, just refresh that. Let me see what happens if I add an attacker, and I'll end my turn, and I'll have this guy add an attacker. So that should be a different player with a different attacker, but it came with a quantity of 2. Weird. Let me take a look at my logic. I'm gonna flag it. Okay, so at this point, if I add one, alright, we're entering the thing. We'll just step down. Player is player 1, that makes sense. Yes. So planet C1, okay. Ship type is an attacker, so that came in correctly. And then build time would be 0, right? So then on the next step, we're checking to see if it's empty, basically. The amount of stuff we have in there is 2, so it would not be, so this gets skipped, right? So we should be entering the else condition. We're going to check for here. We're going to go down to the next step. Okay, so the player in the index of I. What's my current index? I is currently 0. Yeah, so player is player 0, player is player 1. So this should be false. So it needs to be this and this. Planet 0, planet 1. And it needs to be this. And the build time would be 0. Build time is 0. So it skipped. It set build time to 1, or quantity to 1, and then it should add the ship to here. You continue. Player 1, planet 1. Yeah, have a good one. I'll see you later, AP. The turn ended, that's why it cleared. Okay, we got you. Well, I was gonna check a thing, but I don't think I need to check that. But that part's not making sense. I'm gonna run player 1. If I add a ship, I get 1 ship. I can hit this again. That makes sense, right? I can add a different ship. But the new ship that I added ended up with a quantity of 2. Why did it end up with a quantity of 2? That's weird. Alright, so I'll add this one. Let's throw breakpoint. Add the next one. Okay, so we're entering the loop. This ship should be a different ship, right? So it should skip everything and do this. Okay, so ship quantity currently 0. Ship quantity is 1. And then I'm guessing the loop just runs again. Yeah, loop just ran again, so I didn't break the loop. Oops. Yeah, so we'll add the 1 and we'll break, and we'll do the same thing here. We'll add the 1 and we'll break. No reason to continue the loop in either of those cases. What's the error? Unreachable code. Why would it be unreachable? So what it's saying is, because I'm breaking here, it would never get to run the second iteration. And I suppose that's true. But Dormammu, I've come to bargain. I knew that was going to bite me. Having this twice. But how can I do that? I can do... I don't want it to try to enter the loop if there are no elements. So it makes sense, I think, to check to see if there's at least something in there before doing anything. But I think I can redo it this way. I'll keep this in a safe place. But I think I can do this a little nicer. So up here, we'll still run the check. And I'll still run this loop. But I'll run it a little bit differently. So let's do if action q, yeah, you jerk, dot create ship, one second. Yes,
Do you still have my card from dinner when you went and got Publix?
What's up?
Do you still have my card from dinner when you went and got Publix?
Yes.
Can you put it on my desk?
Okay, I'll put it there.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. She sounds so disappointed. Okay, so good. And wait, is there an is valid check? Is valid index. We'll say is greater than 0. So if the value is greater than 0, we're just going to flip the script here. We will run this function. But we will not break, we will return. And then I'm not going to run an else here. I will simply just add to the queue. There we go. Because what that'll do basically is it's just going to check to see if there's if there's something here, then we should check the loop. If the loop hits, good, we set it, we'll leave the loop. We'll actually exit the whole function. If it gets through the end of the loop and does not ever hit this, then we'll just add the ship as it is. I'll be back in a second.
Okay.
Okay, so let's give this a shootle. We'll get the game mode. We'll get the queue. So, like, kids join my class, you know. A lot of people are like, oh, you know, game design is the most amazing thing in the world. It is. It's pretty cool. Because if they come in, they think, I'm just going to be playing games all day. I was like, not exactly, no. Like, if you're coming into my class to play Fortnite, you need to go. If you're coming to my class because you want to learn computer science through game design, you're going to have a blast. Because the game that you're going to be playing is going to be the game that you're building, and you're not really going to be playing it as much as bug testing and making sure crap works. That's really all it is, you know. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and just build a couple things. We'll end the turn. I'll build a couple things. Right, and I can't overbuild. Yeah, and I'll end turn. And then I'll end turn again. Yes. Cool. So now I can build ships. Build a ship. Okay. So I'm going to unflag that and just hit continue. So we build the ship. First ship is in. Second ship is in. Third ship is in. New ship. New ship is in. Yes. Cool. I was able to build. That looks good. I'm going to go to the next player. Can I build a ship? Unique ship. Unique player. Okay. If I hit it again. Yes. We got gold. Can I add the next ship? Yes. So that's working. Her Rizzle. Yay. And I will add a supply ship, even though technically they're not buildable yet. Well, they are, but they're sort of not. Supply ship. Yeah. Player 1 has a supply ship. Player 1 gets 2 supply ships. Cool. Now, it did allow me to add it even though I didn't have enough resources, so that's something I'm going to have to check. But, yeah. Because it's allowing me to add them, I don't have enough resources. So, that's a different problem in its own way. But man, that makes me think of a solution. But that solution makes me think of handling this differently. The solution is to put the add ship to the queue call directly inside the construct ship function. right? Because that function will exit itself long before we even have a chance to do the other things. But if I do that there, then it makes sense to do it on the building one, instead of handling those as two separate operations. And then, of course, I ended it. These got cleared because I'm not updating the function on update action queue. I need to go and change how that works so that it rolls over the next. So that's different. But yeah, the solution to solving the mineral problem would be to simply add it would simply be to add the ship to the queue directly inside of the calling function that constructs it. So why is that a problem? It technically isn't a problem. But on construct ship, all these safety checks happen. Checks to see if we had the minerals, right? And then it just gets to here. It says, hey, no minerals if you don't have them. Cool. So really what you might be like, well, how come there are two resource checks? Well, there are two resource checks. The first resource check is to see if the planet even has the correct resource types. If it doesn't have the correct resource types, we can skip calculating anything else. So, cool. But if that checks, then we have to actually check if we have the correct amount of resources. So then I do this, right? And if this passes, then we check and make sure that everything's there. Cool. So right here is that call that I came to earlier, where I was like, maybe I can comment that out and do it later. So I think what I will do here is this. I'll comment this guy out, and then I will call game mode. Ooh, do you not have the game mode on here? The planet has to have a reference to the game mode. Does the planet not have a reference to the game mode? Let's take a look. Looks like I don't have a reference to it. I'm not using this, so I can cut that out. Oh, this is how I was going to do the queue originally, and I wrote that in, but I decided to do it a different way. Also, typically before the implementation stuff on the H file. Oh, interesting. They usually do something like this. Just to give you some buffer. Okay. U class. Planet stats, ship stats. No direct reference to the game mode. I can add it. It's not too much of a problem, but I have to supply it. So if I add it there, I have to supply it. Which I can do when the planet is created. I can pass in a reference to the game mode. But it does create a... you want to avoid creating reciprocal dependencies where both objects rely on each other to exist, but they both can't exist at the same time. That would be a problem. As long as the thing that I'm calling does not need to, that should be fine. What if I just handle it in Blueprint? As I'm doing. If I call the function first, it'll exit and do all that stuff, then it'll call that. Alright. So what I was thinking of doing is here I would call the game mode and I would call the function for adding to the queue, and then on the update queue, I would actually add the ship to its list. Because all the resources are being handled here, so that would just save me the headache of having to recalculate the resources. You don't want to reuse code. So that I could do. I'm trying to foresee any long-term complications with doing it this way. But again, I need to have that reference to the game mode. And you're like, well, what's the big deal of having the planet have a reference to the game mode? Well, because then the planets become heavier. Each planet that exists has a reference to the game mode and all the stuff the game mode does. Right? It's okay for the player to have that, though. And the planet, I think, might have a reference to the calling star. So let's see if star is there. It doesn't have... No, the planets are completely agnostic to the star. The planet does have the player. That's kind of messy. Grabbing it from the player would be a mess because if the player doesn't exist at the time that gets called, that could be a problem. But I could grab the player, game mode, and then from the player's game mode, I should be able to get the add. Action to action Q underscore ship. It's mad at player. Is this an ASQ player? It is an ASQ player. Pointer reference is incompatible type. Or incomplete type. Well, wait, why would it be an Right, because because the planet doesn't need to know necessarily have the player, but the... Planet stats. Does the planet stat have the owner? Yes. Planet stats does have a reference to the player. So that would work. It's a little messy. It's a handoff that I don't really like, but no, that's not going to work. Because not every planet has a player. It only has a player when that player acquires it and becomes the owner of it. Again, that's something that could fall off at some point, so that's not dependable. Granted, I only need to call this function if I own the planet. But if this function gets called right as that planet gets attacked, then it could be that the planet is no longer valid, or the owner would no longer be valid. So while I could do it this way, I shouldn't do it this way. What is it, cat? You being angry kitten? You being an angry cat? Okay. It's kind of like playing chess. You know, trying to look a few moves ahead to see if you can avoid checkmate. Or if you can win checkmate, you know. If I make sure that players cannot do anything during limbo time, then it wouldn't be an issue necessarily. I shouldn't bank on that though. Okay, so I really don't want to add that, but I will. Boom, 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 boom. Where would I put this? Combat stats, regular stats, interactive, properties. Delegates. I do want to have a section for delegates. I don't like doing this. But this would be a reference, so references. This is going to be ASQ game mode. And then in the CPP file, I do have to include it. Sphere components. Include StarQuest /system / game mode. Where was I? Resources, construct building. The way I did construct building is I had to check for whether it was already in queue. That particular check doesn't work for the ship. Because if I do this here, that is technically one less call I have to make on the blueprint side. Alright, so I need to pass in planet stats dot owner. The planet needs to be this, and then the ship would be ship type. How am I passing in ship type here? I'm just passing it in off of ship type. Okay, so ship type -1. And that's passed in through there. It's weird that I can't do that here. Like, I do it here. It's fine. I don't think I need to go directly to the ship list. I may just pass in ship type directly. And YOLO. We'll comment this out. This will be so ship added to action queue, and we'll semicolon it. So if I do this, then I don't need to do it in Blueprint, but I need to make sure it's going to work. See, it's slower already, because the planets are so much heavier. You know what I didn't do? I didn't populate this variable. That's going to fail. That has to be supplied. I'm going to supply it from the star. Where is the star? So the star creates the planet. Define star, create planet. Planet dot game mode is equal to so that'll get passed in when it's born. But that's like the simplest check, I think. Otherwise, I'd have to check the resources again, which I don't want to do. And that means here, I do not need to do any of this crap. So I will bypass this search for the game mode, and we will go directly into spawning the ship or constructing the ship. Everything else would be the same. And then what gets passed into here would be that. Alright, let's get the game mode again. Q. Construct things. Building's already in queue. Intern. Cool. And then we'll add a ship. Ship added to queue. So now I can't add it, not enough resources. So that gives a live update. Can end turn. Same deal. So now the next player can add a ship. I can add a couple ships. Right, so that got me a supply ship. That got me a harvester, an attacker, and then the first ship I built was an attacker. So everything going in is correct. And then if we refresh, we refresh. Okay. Oh, I guess that's fine. A bunch of errors. That way, next time I'm in here, I can look and go, do I need this really? But it makes me wonder if I should do this the same. If I should handle that on the construct building. Because then I don't have to do any of this crap, and then that's handled here, and then whatever. And then I can have these, because these are technically handled internally already. You know, it's just a check that I don't have to do. Alright, so let's save that. I'll close this. Come back in here. We'll go back to planet. And then in here, same deal, right? I need the player, so planet stats dot owner, and then I need to have the planet, which is this, and then I need the building, so building type. Right, so we do all the stuff, check for resources, and I already have the flag for this. You either don't own the planet, it's already constructed, or already in queue, and if any of these pass, then it adds itself. So I should be able to safely bypass that section, and reduce the amount of stuff. So same deal here, right? I will bypass this check. Everything should work the same. Q. So added, and then I can't add another one. Added. Can't add another one. Intern added. Can't add another one. Intern added. So all those still work. So yeah, so that'll save some time, because instead of having to check the same thing like 3 or 4 times, it only gets checked once on that function. So that should speed things up a little bit. And I think it works out, because why rewrite the code if I don't have to? I already got it here. This flag will still get checked. That's fine. And then all that. So now the task will be to go to the game mode. That's interesting. I've got the gen.cpp file. So this is the generated file. You kind of get to see the internals of what's happening. All the linking that's happening. It's kind of cool. I do not need this, so I'll close that. I'll go back to my game mode. And let's go to update the queue. Okay. One second.
harassing you again.
No.
Back up on the perch. Oof. Okay. This is updating buildings in queue. I want to get a section for updating ships in queue. You know what I didn't test? Well, I didn't test it because I can't test it. I was going to say I didn't test it to see if on the next cycle the things would be there. Alright. Let's see what I can reuse and what I need to rewrite. So we enter, we check the queue. We need to see if the player still exists and the planet is still owned. So that seems to be right for there. And then we can update the build time. That looks right. We want to check to see if the build time is greater than or equal to the build time set in the planet stats. That looks right, and then we'll do some things. Okay, but we won't be hitting a construction button. We won't be doing that. And then at the end of this, it checks to see if the building in the list is already there. I think most of this is correct, but we will be using the create ship list. And pretty much everything from here is create ship, so I'm just going to do create building, I'll do a find, and I'll do a replace with create ship. So, no, I don't want to go that far forward. I just want to do this section. Can I go to next instance? Find next. Well, did that change it? Hold on. Okay, so that one's still there. Okay, so this one I should get a replace, replace, replace. Okay, go back to that. Some of this I don't need. So for here, we're gonna check, make sure these are right. Create ship player. Make sure he's active. Yes, player is active. And that the player in the queue is the same owner. Yes. Yeah, because I have to make sure the planet is still owned, because we don't want to construct anything on the planet if we don't own it. So that makes sense. From here, we'll update any build times on that ship. So build time greater than ship. Planet, we don't want to do building list, we want to get the ship list. And then we're going to do an action queue, get the ship, and this is ship list, ship type -1, and get the build time. I believe that's correct. Okay, and then in here, so if it's greater than or equal to the build time, then I need to get that planet. So that's going to be action queue dot create ship. Get the correct index, and we'll get that planet and that planet's ship list. And then inside the ship list we need, I'll just borrow from here. So we'll get the ship type that is specified, and then we will increase the count. Now there was a soft ship count, and I need to check. I don't think it's affected on there. Okay, so we can add that. Okay. Now down here, hey, welcome to the stream, by the way, if I haven't said hi. How are you? How's it going? How's life? What are you working on? You know, are you building a game? Do you program? Just checking it out for checking it out. All right, so we'll increase the ship count on that planet for that type. Okay. The next step is going to be rolling over anything left in the queue. So in this case, anything that has not exceeded the build time. So I guess I can roll this as an else. I don't necessarily have to check the else, since it should be the opposite of whatever this is. Basically, if the build time is less than the build time in the list, then we should add it to the queue. So I'll say else here. I think that's right. And then down here, we will update the new queue. Yeah, create building, create ship. So, theoretically, I should be able to see this working. I can't. Okay, I'll roll it. We'll say no for that for now. I'll do 2 added planets. We'll get the queue. Oops. Game mode. Queue. Yay. Build 1. Build 2. Ah. Then end turn, build 1 and build 2. We'll end a turn. These rolled over and it kept. Okay. Now I can add a ship, and I'll also add, actually add a couple of them. And then I'll add this one as well. Supply ship takes more, right? I think the supply ship takes longer. Let me take a look. Ship stats. That's planet stats. Ship here. No, it would be on planet stats. What did I set the thing to? Add some building. Ship. Here we go. Supply ship takes 2. A harvester takes 1. Okay, so I should see the supply ship stay in the queue. Okay, and this one's got 1, 2, 1, and we'll end turn. And then I'll add a couple of these. Those only take 1 turn. And then I will not add a supply ship for this one. I just want to see how it's going to roll. Okay, so that updated. Player 1 has a supply ship, and it is being counted. So I'm going to end turn. I'm going to make this player add a supply ship now. And then I can end turn, so that one's off. This one is still being built. Player 1, let's see your ship count. I should have 1 attacker, 1 supply ship, and that. Actually, I should have more than 1 attacker. I made 2 attackers. So that didn't get updated correctly. So what I think I'll do is just add the quantity back to itself. So we can exit that. We come back to game mode. So instead of plus plus, I'll do plus equal whatever the quantity was. So action q dot create ship dot quantity. So I'll add that quantity back. Okay, so we got that. Game mode. I don't expect those to change much. But starports are required, so I need those. So I'll add 4 attackers, 1 harvester, 1 supply ship. Can I add another? Okay. Cool. And I'll end my turn. And this character wants to add, I don't know, 2, and then 1. Didn't have enough for a supply ship, but I got 2 attackers, 2 harvesters. So 4, 1, 1, and then 2, 2. And then we end turn. Okay, so this player should have 4 attackers, 1 harvester. The supply ship isn't done yet. And then we end turn. This player should have 2, 2, and 0. This didn't get refreshed, so I need to make sure the menu gets refreshed when you change players. And then the supply ship is still in the wings, so we'll end turn. Okay, so now supply ship is there, and the other player doesn't have a supply ship yet, right? No, no supply ship. So I'll just call update ship list. I'll do that from menu. Yeah. All the angry. Okay. Where is that happening? That's happening over here. I still gotta fix this anyway. I have an event, refresh, then ship menu. And that I can do at the end of these ships. Refresh, then ship menu is getting called here, but it is not getting called on the update. So when that is called encode. So I should probably send the broadcast then. So that's on select, ship delegate. Yeah, I was a bit angry. This is just messy. Just look, I have to have this strung across this call. You know? Just never liked the way these delegates worked. There should be a direct path to send a signal from C++ to cause an action in Blueprint. There should be a direct throughput, you know? The fact that there isn't just drives me nuts. Because now I have to have this running on tick. It has to be listening all the time. Well, I don't need something to listen all the time. I just need something to respond when the function's called. So like in code, the function gets called, right? Then in here, it just says, okay, I do the thing. You called me. I don't know. I looked at doing it through events, and you can do it through events, but it has to be on the object itself. So, like if I did it on the game mode, inside the game mode's blueprint, I could have the C++ kind of call that, and then on the blueprint side, that event fires, I think. But I don't have a way of doing that through here. What I might be able to do is create this widget in C++ and then call that function, and then that function fires the event. Another option might be an interface. You can create interface messages between anything that holds the interface. That's an option. Sorry, I was just thinking whether or not I wanted to set up an interface. Let's do one. I don't necessarily want to create another delegate. This one's on select. Because if I made another delegate, it would have to do the same thing. But I can call this again, and that broadcast will be fired. Because that would do it. So this is on select ship, or select object delegate, but maybe I should have this be something more universal. What's in a name, right? I spent a lot of time thinking about the names of the stuff. So, here's the thing about yawning. Random, but I have a cat that just yawned. You are not sitting in my lap. No, you're not sitting in my lap. Because you have all this fur, and I don't want all this fur. You will not sit in my lap. No. Because there's a lot of fur, and there's a lot of you, and I don't want all that fur. So if you yawn, and somebody else yawns, they say that the quicker the other person yawns shows how close they are to you in relationship. Because yawning is like a pack thing. It's a way of re-energizing the mind, adding more blood flow, more oxygen, or whatever not. So I yawned and the cat yawned. Or the cat yawned and I yawned. We yawned right about the same time. Hi. You're real cute and all, but You cannot sit on my lap without a blanket because there's going to be so much of you. Hold on, no. I gotta shield myself from the cat. There you go. There you go. I'm gonna shield myself from all that is you. So Jerry has the coarsest fur. Her fur is really weird. Like, on her head it's real short, but on the body she's got real long hairs. But they're not. You have the stinkiest butthole. So Misty. This is adorable. Misty did not have a stinky butthole. She would get up in my face, she'd do little face nuzzles, and then of course she would spin around and sit and put her butt in my face. And that's always gross, right? And it's like, oh, don't put your butt in my face, right? But Jerry does the same thing. But I didn't go, ew, your butt stinks, you know. This one, she just turns her butt in my direction. I'm like, ugh, I can smell that thing from here. So, both her and her sister have stinky butts. I don't know why they got stinky butts, but they got stinky butts. They've always had stinky butts. And they have flea meds and they have worm meds and all that stuff, so I don't know. They're just... I think because they didn't have a mother, because all of our cats are rescues, but rescues in like, not from the SPCA or whatever, but we found them in random places. So Jerry and Xerxes, we got both of them up in Brooksville. I think it was Brooksville. So Nadia took my dad up to go see a car, and while they were looking at this car, she happened to see these two scraggly little kittens running around, and she's like, and the dog, I guess, was playing with them, like throwing them up in the air and catching them and doing things with them. And she's like, sir, are these your cats? And he's like, nope, there's some stray cat. They had a mother, but I haven't seen her in a while. And he said there were more kittens, but now there's only two. So she was like, oh my god. So she sends me a text with a picture of two scraggly little flea-bitten balls of furriness in the back seat of the car with a handful of cat food around them. You know. They were like this big. She sends me a thing and says, don't be mad, because she's bringing two cats home. So they did not have a mother. So we became their surrogates, and we fed them and cleaned them and whatever not. But I don't think they learned, because they learned their cleaning habits from their parent. And, like, I'm not licking the cat's butt, you know. So they just didn't, I guess, learn how to clean themselves very effectively. But Popo's really clean, like a super clean cat. She's so prissy, her coat is so shiny and soft and pretty. So we found Popo kind of the same way. Someone, so the company Naughty was at, somebody, one of the workers was like on, what is that, Almerton, out on Almerton Road, and saw this black little ball of cat, little thing like this big, barely able to walk, like in the middle of the street. No other cats anywhere. No mother, no other kittens. Apparently, that's what he said. So how did it get there, we don't know. Maybe the mama was trying to migrate and the mama got hit and dropped the kitten. Maybe a bird picked up the kitten and ended up dropping it at some point. We don't know. We don't know how it got there. But he found the cat and he brought it to the office, and Nadia's like, "Oh no, another cat!" She sends me a picture. Don't be mad. I'm like, and yeah, so we got Popo and we whatever, but we made extra sure that when we bathed her that we bathe everything, like, and then Jer Bear became the surrogate mother of Popo, and Jerry cleaned her all the time. Cleaned like everything. Cleaned her face, cleaned her butt, cleaned all the things. So Popo learned very good grooming habits. So she's super clean. Popo does not have a stinky butt. But I think that's why these two have stinky butts, because they don't clean very well. Although Xerxes is a lot cleaner than Jericho. Anyway, that was me ranting or talking about cats for a minute. Kitten rescues. She would set up a kitten sanctuary if she could, but we would have 400 freaking cats. We can barely afford to feed the 3 that we have. No. And Misty required special food, so that's... what? It's like $70 a bag for the food that we get for the 3 cats, and then Misty had specialty food because she had sensitive skin, sensitive stomach. So that's like $70 right there just for her. But Misty passed, so we're not paying that anymore. But Jerbear, I have a blanket that shields me from you, and I'm still getting your fur stuck to me. How is that happening? Okay, so I guess on this selection object, that delegate, I can call that in code, and I'll just leave myself a note that I'm calling it there. Maybe I'll rename the delegates at some point. I don't know. I like to be kind of clean with my code, but so on this, well, that delegate is being called from the player controller. So that's not cool. Come on now. The other reason I have a blanket is her claws are going to go through it, and they're going through, and she's grabbing my leg. Oh, brat. Must you? She's making biscuits, but she's making biscuits with all 4 paws. Like her 2 paws and her back feet, she's just like... Her favorite thing is putting her head in your hand. You just like hold her head. That's her favorite thing. Hi, cat. Alright. I really don't want to do another delegate and call it through that disgusting system. But I don't have another way of, because this is firing, right? How do I get a signal from this that it fired in the blueprint side, right? I don't have a way of getting that. So when update fires, I gotta send a signal out. The only way I can think of doing it is through a delegate. If you have a better solution, I'm happy to hear it. I can't do it direct. I mean, I could do it through an event, but then I'd have to call that event in the blueprint of the game mode, and then I would have to send a signal to that particular action. Like, I can do it that way too, you know, but that's just as annoying and messy as dragging an extra line down on that call. So there's like a whole thing about not putting things on event ticks, right? Which is goofy because your listeners are on a tick. Like, something is updating every frame and checking a listener to see if it's heard something. But to get around that, I don't know. So I've got the end turn signature. I guess I can make a clear, dynamic, multicast. This will be F on update. What are we doing? This is update action Q. So the one guy's naming convention was signature and then delegate, but I don't know if I care for that because it's still a delegate, but whatever. And I spelled signature wrong. Signature. Then I'll come down inside of here, where all of my delegates. And then I'll do this one. So F on F on update action queue signature. And then on update action queue. Alright. So I guess we'll broadcast that and hit the thing. Okay, I'm pretty sure those are safe to remove. Down here, I'm going to grab another freaking delegate. Hate these things. But it's gonna be on update. I guess I get the game mode. Sorry, I was just thinking about a different way of implementing it. Game mode. What I was thinking about was just going on that particular thing's blueprint, plugging it into its tick, and then having its tick send the signal back. Not that it's better, it's just slightly cleaner on my board. Because I really hate dragging these wires out like this. This is just awful. You know? Maybe I'll do that at some point. Update, action queue. I guess I'll bind. Nope. Assign. So I'll just fire that off of here, and I'll fire that down here. You see how messy this is? Like, there is the event dispatcher system, but I think it's basically a delegate. It works kind of the same way. I think event dispatcher is the same thing as doing a C++ delegate. I think they're the same thing. Now there is also an issue with update location name, destination name, update ship list. There's an issue with how this is firing. I need to see how that works while I'm here, just kind of like solving that issue. Okay, so this, we'll get some players in here. Game mode. Pretty much know that this is going to work, right? In case anything else is broken, we need to be able to see this ship list update. So this should update the moment I complete the task. And I don't really need the other one to run, but I will do the other one just in case. So we'll end that. Player 1, I'll make a couple ships. End task. Player 2, I'll make a couple ships. And then I'll end. So now I should see this menu updated. So 2, 1, 0 for player 1. And then if I go to player 2, I should see 1, and 2. Okay, so this didn't update here. So that could be fired on end turn. And actually, I might be able to get away with just firing it on end turn instead of having to call the delegate, because it's only when that is ticked, really, that we see the change. So let's jump out of there. Yeah, nobody cares. Let me call this one refresh then ship menu. And I'll call that from end turn. So where is end turn? There's on end turn delegate. There is button end turn. We'll look for this. Find references. On button end turn, after all of this happens, we can refresh the send ship menu. So I can do that, and if I do that, I might not have to call this delegate. So I'm going to break this delegate. Because that doesn't happen live, that happens on the next update anyway. Oh. That was a bit too hasty. Okay, now I should be able to build ships. I wasn't reading the message. Maybe I should have the messages pop up in like white if it's cool, and have a red message that pops up if it's, you go, oh, that was not someone. And then I'll 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll pop this up, and then I'll end turn. That updated, and turn, that updated. Yeah. So that worked. I didn't have to send the delegate. that makes sense. Okay. So now we can create the ships. We have to find a way to send the ships. That's gonna get a bit weird. Let's see. Do I want to handle that now? I kind of do. But I've also been sitting here for, what, 3 hours? So I might want to get up and go do something and then come back. Okay. Now there is an issue with sending ships, sending resources. Let me grab this. This didn't update, see? That says none. So if I grab this, the resources update, but the locations don't. If I'm on the send ship menu, the locations update. So what's happening here is on this menu. Oh look, more errors. On that menu, right chaw, I've got if the resource menu is open, do that, that, or that. So update location, update destination. So I think after firing this, I'm going to fire that. And we'll just see how that goes. Part of the reason I separated these is it was causing the other menu to open. But I want to see if this will work just fine. Okay. So now, if I am on Resources tab and I grab see how it's forcing me to go back to attackers and harvest. So this is updating the ship list. So I need to separate those menus. So the ship list needs to be left alone, but the resources need to stay, and the locations need to be there. So let's take a look at that. I know, I got errors. Go away. Okay. So if resource menu is open, we want to update resources, and we want to update the destination and locations. And for the sake of order and my own sanity, I'll update locations first, and then I will update these. That doesn't really matter, it's just me being OCD. Locations get updated, and then updating whatever is at them. Crapadoodle. We need the docked planet, and then the target is the ship menu. And then we're getting docked planet. We're no longer grabbing planets, so I'll just nuke it. Okay. So do you guys find it helpful to watch somebody bumble around and make all the mistakes? Like, I sometimes find it helpful, but I need to also add those to the menu that pops up here. Alright, ships. And turn. Okay, my ship's updated. Horizzle. Hooray! So if the ship menu is open, that updated just fine. And if the resource menu is open, those update just fine. Now there's something else that I have to fix. I'll show you that real quick, which is, let me make sure we've got planet 1 and planet 2. Oh, the planet is not being updated. So that one is updating. The planet is changing here. Destination planet, or the starting planet from the location to the home, wherever. That's updating. On here, I'm getting the correct resources from that planet. But I'm not getting the planet name. That's weird. All these spaghettis. So I didn't pass in the selected planet for the destination. So this one. So if I go down to destination planet, yep. So that's going to be passed in. You can see I left myself a note. Destination planet. Yeah. That comes from the player controller. The comment there is, should I pass this back to the player? For ease of, I guess, usage, I can grab it from the player, but that doesn't really matter. Nobody else is going to be working on my code. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and load these up again. Same dealio. We'll get those. I'll build some stuff. Then I'll build some stuff. I'll open the menu. I'll select something. Menu updates. Yes. Send resources. Yes. So one issue, just to kind of show off, I need to fix is the array ordering. So this planet has iron, petroleum, and helium, I think. Hydrogen, okay. Hydrogen is this one. Helium is that one. That's the order that these are in. And the reason for that is each planet actually has its own resource types, and that's one of the challenges in this game is there's going to be your specific resources are going to be different than the resources of somebody else. So like in StarCraft, everybody's mining minerals and gas, right? But in this, the things that construct your building might be different than the things that construct somebody else's building. So I might need iron and petroleum to make a factory, but you might need hydrogen and crystal to make a factory, just to make those things different. So when you go seeking other resources, they might not be the same resources as your opponent, and that kind of makes the strategy behind finding a planet a bit more unique, because yes, you want to destroy the other player, but you also want to get the most value for what you're getting, right? So in that case, you can see that the resources, if we go here, the resources are different. And the ordering is different because they could have been anything. So if I, let's say, want to add petroleum to that planet, you can see I hit the petroleum button, it's updating petroleum. It found that. That's working. If I want to update hydrogen, it finds hydrogen and it updates that. That works. Iron works. But on the return, if I'm like, oh, I don't want to send 7 iron. Iron is reducing from petroleum because the order is different on the reverse end. Same thing, hydrogen. Hydrogen is getting from hydrogen. That ended up working out. Petroleum is getting from iron. So the reason hydrogen is working is they're in the same index. So I need to make sure that I'm comparing that index by name or by resource type. on the return. But do I want to do that now? That's the question. How important is that right now? Okay, send ship menu. Does this get updated here? No. That's gonna get updated. Oh, maybe it does get updated here. Destination ship list. This one is send button. Okay. And that part's the easy part, right? I'm just sending. Update resource amounts. Ooh, I saw them broken. Oh no, that was just my own flag. So update resource amounts. Okay. That might be on send resource child. Resource location. Okay. So on click button subtract. We've got this going on. On the button add. Yeah. So here I'm checking if the resource that if the resource I found is equal to the resource that I have, and if so, then I've got some work that I'm doing. I need to do that check here. But I don't remember my logic. I don't remember what I was doing. So I have a loop count. But why did I do that? I think I'm going to pause here and come back. This is going to take me some thinking on how I want to redo this. And I have to look at my old logic to see what I was doing. I think what I'm doing here is the planet that you're... The planet's going to have different numbers of resources. So planet 1 might have 3 or 4 resources. Planet 2 may only have 1 resource that is shared between, you know, the 2 planets. So I think this is checking for that, but I have to double check. But I'm getting tired, so I don't... my chances of making mistakes are higher. Oh, and then Jer Bear is here trying to be Jer Bear. What do you want? So yeah, I think I'm going to take a break, grab something to snack on, and then I'll come back in a bit. So, thank you for joining me, and I'll catch you next time.